Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 19 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to make our own homemade designer tissue paper. Everybody uses the tissue paper, the rice paper, and that type of stuff, and it's really kind of cool because it's see-through. It's also quite expensive. So let's just go ahead and make our own. It'll be our own design. It'll be different than everyone else's, and you can really do some really awesome things with this. So we're going to start out by, I have some of our stamps, the roller stamps. I've got my markers for the stamps and paints, and I've already prepared 5 of the colors of my paint pad. And this is just a drying sheet from the Dollar Tree. It's like a towel on each side with just a touch of foam in the middle. This one actually is my clean off one. This is damp. It's been gotten wet and then wrung out so that I can use that to wipe off my stamps. And then these are also the same, and these have been wet down and then wrung out pretty well. You really don't want a lot of water there, but you do want the dampness so that it doesn't suck up your paint as well. It helps your paint spread around a little easier and helps keep your paint a little wetter longer. So I also do have a spray bottle of water in case it starts to get a little dry and I want to water it up a little bit. So to go ahead and get your painty pad ready, you just put some of your paint on there. And I'm not squishing it in real well. I'm really just spreading it over the top of the towel sponge, whatever you call it, our paint pad. And I'm just spreading it around to even it out. And I'm making it about the width of our roller stamps. I got a little bit too much paint on this one. Quite a bit too much paint, actually. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to take this paint and I'm just going to, now I'm going to set this aside so that it'll be here to use, but won't be in our way. I'm just going to take this paint and put it on a piece of paper to just give me some colored paper for some other time. There we go. Okay, set that aside. And I do have some parchment paper set out around my table to put the wet papers on. So the first thing is to get our tissue paper, and I have done a couple things here. So this one is coffee dyed. So I just took some coffee, sprayed it on the tissue paper, and made this just, a little bit darker, or toning it down a bit. Now, the thing is, do you want a huge piece of paper? If you do, lay it out and use the huge piece of paper. And what I do like to do is, a lot of times, I just like to make my paper approximately the size of a regular sheet of paper. So I just set a piece of paper down there, and I'm just going to kind of line this up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a little bit bigger over here. Maybe it's not quite straight, but that's all right. But I'm just going to make it approximately 8.5 by 11, regular letter size. So I'm just going to go like that with my tear ruler, and then I'm going to put my tear ruler at the bottom. And whoops, I'm not tearing it on the tear ruler. Okay, so I'm just going to do one piece of that color, and it's stuck down here. Do I want it to be straight? I don't know why, but today, yes, I do. A lot of times, it doesn't matter to me. But, so I'm just going to put that on there and tear this little piece off. Okay, so now that's approximately regular size piece of paper. Now you always want to have a piece of paper underneath whatever you're staining or stamping or whatever when it comes to tissue paper, because if it soaks through, you don't want it to get on your surface. But also, if you put a piece of your regular paper under there and it soaks through, you get some really cool patterns and design on that paper underneath. So that's why you don't want to just like have it on your drop paper, unless you want your drop paper to get, colored up like that. So I'm going to do a couple of pieces of just plain white tissue. And this is the same tissue paper as that we picked up from the Dollar Tree. If I can just find the starting point. There we go. Just going to take this one piece. And what I'm going to do, just for the heck of it, is I'm just going to tear it like right on the fold lines. That's not quite paper size, but it's close. And it makes things a little bit quicker. And the only reason I do like to make it paper size. And at times I like to have a great big huge sheet. So, you know, do a little bit of each. The reason that I'm kind of trying to do paper size right now is mostly because it's just easier to get it in the camera shot. And my table is full of stuff because I've been trying to get lots of videos ahead. So, I am just have a huge mess here on my table. So, well, it's not a mess. It's just a collection of things. So, and I'm going to rip it in half. It is easier to rip it along the ruler. And I'm just using the straight edge. So there we go. So now we have a couple pieces of white and one piece of tea dyed that we can go ahead and make into our own tissue paper. So we will start with, let's start with just the white, because I didn't put any brown paint on my paint pad and I want to do the tissue paper in brown. So a couple of things as you're going to start. Now I like to put the shiny side down and put the more matte side up. That's the side I like to stamp on, is the matte side. So start with your largest stamps first, if you're going to just do stamping. And that way, you know you have room. If you put a bunch of little small stamps on there, and then you go to put your large stamp on there, and I can't fit it anywhere because I'm going over top of other stamping, which you can. But if you start with your larger stamp, you know you have room for it, and then you fit your smaller stamps in around it. So, one other thing I wanted to show you here too, when I did the paint pad, this is on parchment paper, so it doesn't soak through on my desk. I did the red, orange, and yellow on one, the green, blue, and purple on another. And I did that for a reason, because when I wash these out in the tub, I will wash this one out first, and then I will use that to dye some paper. Those colors will go together. I'm not sure what this is going to turn out like, but I know that this will turn out a reddish orangish color, and I can use that to dye paper like we did the last time when we made our roller stamps. And I do have those papers here. I'll just give you a quick flip. These are the ones that I dyed after we did the roller stamp. And this was the roller stamp paper, and then I just put it in the water that we washed our off our sponge in, and it turned all of it a beautiful orange color. And I don't know if you can necessarily see that, but it's really, really pretty, and I even like the way that it is on top of the stamp ones. So that's what I will do when I'm done here, is I will rinse those two off in at different times. I'll do the one set first, dye some paper, and then I will dump that paper outside or into some kitty litter, and then I will do the other colors. So let's just do let's just do some blue, and this stamp says love, and I got the paint on my finger, so I'm just going to stamp it around. And I didn't get much ink over here, and the first bit was a little extra. Maybe I should have pressed it down all the way around. But anyway, so just so that you get the gist of it. And then let's do piece in green. So, okay. And also remember to, since I did all those the same way, I'm going to do this one the same way too. But remember to turn your stamps around so that no matter which way you cut or tear your paper and want to put it on your project, you have you know, you'll have something facing in the correct direction. If you do it all one way, then no matter what, when you use it, you need to use it this way. And so if you have it, you know, do them upside down and everything. And I'm going to try and maybe do that one again. Because we cut this out right next to the stamp, a lot of times you can line it up halfway decent. So I'm just going to stamp that off over there and give it a quick wipe on my paint pad, or on my cleaning pad, just to get that acrylic paint off there, because I really don't want to leave that on there. Okay, so that's those. And then you can just go in with other colors and your smaller stamps. And again, remembering to turn it around. Really, it seems that these with the paint, they do well with like 2 stamps. And I am not being totally like making sure that I get this covered and making sure that I kind of smooth it out. I'm just randomly doing it because I like the broken, you know, like the heart that's not completely filled in. I like the looks of that type of thing. And see how it's coming through on our paper a little bit? That's why you have that there. And that really just makes it kind of cool. Let's do, okay, so here's some little, let's do some red maybe. Little red dots. And because we've cut as close to the dots kind of as we can, that kind of lets us know where we can still stamp. We can kind of fit it in so it's not stamping on top. I prefer that my stamping does not wind up on top of my other stamps, but that's all totally up to whatever you like. Some people do like the overlap, and there are some stamps that look nice overlapped too. So I'm just going to kind of fill in the different white parts. And then we will have one piece there. So now we have this piece of handmade tissue paper. You can, or designer tissue paper, and it really is, they're really cool. And you know, normally I may think of, you know, my layout a little bit better, and then I have this in the background. Now I can decide, do I want to set this aside right now because I really like it, or just leave it there and see what happens next. So I'm just going to leave it there because it's nothing super special. It'll make great background paper or paper for snippets. So, you know, so you can also do your roller stamps. If you can find your roller, here it is. So I am going to, let's do, we haven't done any orange or yellow. So I'm just rolling my stamp on the paint pad. And if you're rolling back and forth, let's do some yellow. If you want to, if it's not very dark, let me see, I'm trying to think of, okay, so like there's not a lot on here now. So I want to put something here, but I know there's not a lot of paint. I can go ahead, once you set your roller down, don't lift it up. You should be able to go back and forth, and those dots will line up in the same spot because you haven't lifted it up or moved the paper. So you can get your little dots a little bit darker because you can go over them a few times. And so, you know, that does work with your roller stamps really well that way, so that you don't mess it up. And this just all on its own, that really is a cool piece of background paper. I really like that. So, and actually, this has now gotten to the point where I kind of like the looks of it as a background paper. So I'm going to set it aside, because now I have that painty paper. It makes a nice background paper. And I'll just start with a new one. And that's why we bought a ream of 500 sheets of paper, because it gives us lots of paper to play with. And we can set it aside and instead of letting it sit there and get so kind of messed up that, yeah, it makes an okay tear background or something, but it's just not the nicest. So now I'm going to use one of the corner stamps that we did and maybe make a few squares. And let's do that in red, because the red will go nice with the yellow and the orange. So I'm going to put one there, and then I'm going to come down here and put another one down here, because it stamps nice twice, but it's darker the first time and lighter the second time. So now I'm going to make my square, and I am going to do the first stamp with the first stamp, and you just line those up point to point. And then do the lighter one, do the second stamp, or the stamp off they call it, because that one will be lighter. So now you have a darker square and a lighter square. They look nice together. Otherwise, if you did them, just did one and then turned around and did the other, oops, well, I set it down now, so I better leave it. And you can do it any way you want to. So if you do it light, dark, and then light, and then dark, and then light, you get the same color square. Or if you just do it right away, the regular stamp and the stamp off, you wind up with the dark side and a light side. So, and then, you know, I might maybe want to, let me see, what other color? Green goes with this. I'm going to do another corner stamp with some green. I could put the stamping in the corner, but the thing is, because this is more than likely going, and it depends on what you're going to use it for, really. So I tend to, with my tissue paper, a lot of times I tear it up and put it onto my projects. So it really doesn't matter if I stamp it in the corner, because I'm not going to use this as a square piece of paper. So, you know, I don't necessarily think about it that way. I just do it randomly, because when I tear it, you know, oh, I just stamped that again, and I didn't really want to do that. So I'm going to come up there and then do my stamp off down here. Sorry, that's kind of not in shot. There we go. And then I will do one more full color. And then I will go ahead and put the stamp off right down on the corner. There we go. So that's a really cool looking piece of paper too. Do I want to do more? It actually needs one right there, so I am going to put one there. I moved it, so we'll have to see how that one looks. And not too bad. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do my stamp off here as a triangle pointing in, and I didn't press down the point there. So there, and I think, to me, maybe we'll do a little bit of, maybe we'll do another one of those triangles right down here. Yeah, and we'll do the stamp off right up here. There. I think that that looks really pretty good. And so I'm going to leave it like that. And, you know, look at how fast you can make your own designer tissue paper. You don't want to leave it on there, because it will stick, because the plastic acrylic paint will dry and kind of act as a glue. But I like the way that that looks. And they're so quick to make. You know, there's really nothing to it. And like I said, you can lay it out so that it is a specific design, but you don't, you know, you don't have to. You can just be very random about it. And that way, get some blue paint. And then you just kind of see what you wind up with at the end. I'm going to do some blue dots. And some more blue dots. And am I going to go down the center? What the heck? Didn't really show up much. We'll get some purple dots now. And you just kind of, you just roll it on your paint just like you would in if you were painting the walls and you had one of those paint pans. So then I'm going to do some purple over here and get some more. And do some purple over here. I lifted this up. If I try and go back over that where it's light, it's not going to line up correctly. So I'm going to just not mess with that, even though I kind of want to. I'm just washing this off. And I'm going to, since I have blue, purple, blue, I'm going to do purple, blue, purple. So just get some more blue paint over here. And put that one right there. And there we go, a very generic, nice background tissue paper. And because I know I still have paint on this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it on here before I wipe it off. And there we go, another background page. So, and you can do all sorts of things with your tissue paper. You can wet them down. You know, this one is the tea dyed, so I could just spray some water on there and sprinkle a little, and this isn't tea dyed, this is actually coffee dyed, but just, I don't have anything to scoop it out of here with. Sprinkle a little bit of coffee on there. And then give it a spray. Now, this is a hairspray bottle that I put coffee in. And whenever you do something like that, just go ahead and make sure you mark it. And so, because that was not super wet and that didn't dissolve, I'm going to spray it with a little bit of this. There we go. Get it wet enough for it to dissolve, and I think that I will maybe just fold this over. It's all really just about playing. Now, because I think that coffee might make it stick together, I'm not going to leave it folded in half. I am going to unfold it before it dries. But there we go. That is, it's hard to see because let's put the, and see, I did not put a piece of paper behind it. So now I've got some cool color on my drop cloth. But there we go. So that's what that looks like. And you can do it up more. You know, I want to do some of this tissue paper in brown since I didn't get the brown paint out. I will leave that and do it another time, but it just really looks cool. And, you know, you can always go in if you want to. I really like the way this looks. You know, sometimes it's like, I think I should go a little further, but if you like the way it looks, don't go further. So, you know, just the tissue paper is $1.25 and you get a whole lot of it. So you can do an awful lot of different things. If you get one that you like, don't think you have to continue and continue. But we'll do the same thing with this one. And then we will stamp on it a little bit. So, what did I do with, oh, here it is. It's just a fingernail file that I used to like distress the edges of paper. There we go. And then spray it with some coffee. Whoops. You can only spray it if you take the top off. It's getting very low, so I'm having a hard time. I have to kind of keep it straight up, which means I'm spraying coffee everywhere. But it's just coffee. It won't hurt a thing. This one has much more coffee on it. I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other one, though. Fold it in half. And then unfold it. And there we go. That one looks really quite cool too. And actually, since this one is more colorful and I like it better, I'm going to set that one aside and we'll stamp on this one. So even though I like it, I like the other one better. So, you know, you've got this. There's nothing that says you can't. I wanted to use the little squares. There's nothing that says you can't go in and now that you've tea dyed it, put some color on it. So you can just go in and stamp some color. Or you could stamp the color ahead of time. Just like that. And the other thing that you can do with your tissue paper is, where's some more? I want to get a piece of paper to put underneath of it. Before you stamp, or even instead of stamping, I'm going to just rip this so it's easier for me to deal with, so it's not hanging off the edge of my table. There we go. You can take your dies that we made with the Easter egg colors, and I did red, pink, and yellow, or red, orange, and yellow. I'm not sure exactly what colors these are. Maybe that's purple. I'm not sure. But now the way you can drip it on there if you want to. Let's do the darker color and try and do a drip. And I didn't want to like squeeze it because I didn't want it to come out too fast. But I like drips that drip and they go splat and then they stay that way. This doesn't work really well, especially on the tissue paper, to splat like that and then stay that way, because it really soaks in, and then, you know, it soaks in and it doesn't have those definitions as it might if it was like just a little bit of thickened or thinned paint. So, but what I do a lot of times too is I just go in and I put my paintbrush into the liquid and then just paint it onto our tissue paper. And I can't do that. I was going to try and be very careful and just set them there open, but I'm just going to wipe that on my cloth over there. It's probably not going to get it clean, but it'll get some of it off. And then we'll go with this yellow. Kind of make it a little bit like fireworks. But you can also just paint it on solid. And if you need some tissue paper that's just a certain color, this is an easy way to do it instead of going and having to buy the one that's mixed colors, especially if you don't want to use the other colors. And then maybe take some and just drip it on there. And just kind of clean my brush that way. Okay. So you can do your paints with it. You can do your stamps with it. And there we go. That's what that looks like. So see, it's much lighter than what it was on here because of the paper picking up that color. But so that's what it looks like with those. And again, you know, you can plan it out a little bit better or just do it random. I don't like this. So if I was actually doing this to continue, I would just keep going until I liked it or until I just had to throw it away. But, you know, I would be able to get this to where I liked it because if, at the very least, I would kind of make it a solid colors, and it makes a great background. So, and, you know, and then you've got your markers, and you can use your markers on your stamps, and it just makes them a little bit more solid and defined. I don't want that one back there. You know, the paint is more painty, and your markers are a little bit more like if you had used an ink pad. So you can just do that. Whenever you color one, especially if it's larger, if you just breathe on it like that, it just helps it to, it dampens it just a little bit. But so there we go. That one is very, very light. But so don't forget to use your markers also, because they work really well. And again, much more. Where's the first one that we did? Okay, so like here's where we did love. And see, it's very painterly. It's not quite as crisp, but there is the hope. And see, it's much more crisp. And just to get a real comparison, we'll do this one in blue, because maybe the hope stamp is better than the love stamp. So we'll find out. You know, maybe that one just automatically would have stamped better. So okay. So there we go. Now we'll go with the comparison. So you get a crisper stamp with inks or with your markers, which is also ink, than you do with paint. But that's the difference, because paint gives you much more of a kind of a mixed media, messy or fuzzy look, or however you want to call that, whereas the markers give you a much crisper look. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Out of these, you know, these are really nice and crisp, but my favorite out of all of them are these two. And, you know, you can't hardly see it. There's not much there, but that's my favorite. You know, I love to put that type of thing in the background, so it's there. And, you know, maybe people don't even know it's there. It's just there, you know, for that invisible support, maybe you want to say. So this is how easy it is. Just stamp them out, do some different designs. You can use coffee, markers, paint. You know, you can dye your paper first so that it's got a nice vintage look to it. Don't forget to have your background papers, because a lot of people say, what do you do with those? Those are just trash. But they really aren't trash. When you rip them up and put them into a snippet or anything, you know, they're really awesome. So, good thing I'm finishing up here, because my camera just told me that it's almost dead. I love, love, love this one. That is my favorite. And again, like I said, I hadn't really thought about how I wanted to lay these out. So, you know, if you give it a little thought first, it's definitely works much better. So, and then I'm not going to take this one off the paper because it's still quite damp. And that's it. But we did an awful lot of papers here in just a very short amount of time. And, you know, there's just so many different ways that you can play with these. And this is a way you can use your inks, your stamps, your markers, and you can have your very own designer tissue paper. And if you have other stamps, you can use those too. You know, if you have regular stamps, you don't have to stick with what you've made for the series. But if you don't have any store-bought stamps, just go ahead and make some that look the way you want. I loved corner stamps when I started, but they were expensive, and they usually came like in sets that were really expensive. So I made my own, and I actually found that I really liked them, and I could have tons of different corner stamps, which I really liked, you know, the corner stamps and using them. And I could get tons of them for, you know, pennies. And they're mine. And, I mean, if you look at this one, Well, that's really kind of hard to see, but this one is really, really pretty. I really love that one. You know, the other one's pretty too, but this one I did not make sure that it lined up when you flipped it, and this one I did. So if you look at the stamp video, I show you how to make sure that if you want to flip it into a square like that, how you can make it so that your lines line up, so that when you flip it, it actually meets each other. This one, when you flip it, see, these don't meet up with each other. But then again, because of the way it kind of looks scalloped like that, it actually looks really cool. So, but thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I will be back with a separate video for what we need for next week, because I still have to pick up a couple of things for that, and I don't know where I'm going to get them or what it's going to cost. So I will be back with a video for what we need for next week. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.